And we are live.
Welcome to the Oatmeal Podcast.
Welcome.
Excellent news. There is some music.
Yeah,
That was a music intro. So,
awesome.
yeah, dear listeners, it will be evolving and changing with time, of course. So, just like many things are changing in the universe, our lives are also constantly evolving and changing. There are many resources available for that change to be effectuated. And one of the newest ones is called, what's it called, Aidan?
The path.
The path. Okay. So yeah, what's the path?
So this is a shameless plug here, but my cousin recently wrote a book called The Path.
Nice.
It's not a large book, but it's more of a journaling exercise. I figured I would just read what he wrote about it in his publication of it. So, the Path is a personal development tool, a tool inspired by our shared learning curve, transitioning from the academic to the working world and guided by the timeless wisdom of philosophers and intellectual giants. The fundamental belief of the Path is this: the power and knowledge needed to drive personal growth lurks just below the surface of the conscious mind. Each of us has the capacity for deeper self-awareness. The secret is in creating a space of silence and focus in which to engage it. Kevin, the other author, and my cousin are both voracious readers, but the simple truth is that no amount of reading or knowledge acquisition will catalyze change by itself. Action will. To this end, we realized that methodical, introspective journaling is the unlock. This program, The Path, is a series of journaling prompts broken up into 18 days of less than 1 hour reading and writing sessions. These sessions cover 6 key pillars of life: character, relationships, career, lifestyle, health, and finance. At the end of this experience, you will have a written compass, a compass that orients you towards the future you have envisioned and precisely articulated for yourself. We would love for you to join this tribe of shakers and doers.
Tribe of shakers and doers.
Yeah, that's what he said about it when he was promoting it, I believe, on Facebook. It's a really cool book.
Wow, yeah, that sounds great. And I also see that this book is quite concise, right? So
yeah.
it will not require sort of an enormous amount of time investment on the reader side. Okay, well, yeah, that's great. So yeah, and then let's say before we read the book, right? Or let's say if people cannot read the book at the given moment, yet it's been released already, right? So you can like buy it from Amazon and whatnot.
Yeah, it's pretty affordable. I think around $15 on Amazon.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, so let's try to get some sort of outcomes from that book. So yeah, the first one, I think that's the journaling, right?
Yeah.
Which we need to consider. And yeah, so the journaling, I think it's a pretty effective thing. And then what I was thinking about, kind of the easiest thing which you can use to start a journaling is just to write down on a piece of paper or in the journal, actually in the notebook, every day, 3 things you are grateful for.
Yeah, that's great. That's a really good habit to have, I'd say.
So yeah, that's something to begin with. And then, yes, you can do this on a daily basis quite easily. So how else can a person start writing? What are the other tips we can think about?
You journal, right, Travis?
I used to journal. I kind of fell out of the habit of it. But actually last night I was talking to myself. It's not exactly journaling, but just having a conversation with myself out loud. I was talking about like everything I did during the day, and that helped me kind of walk through the day after it happened and take into account everything I did. So that was helpful for me.
That counts. That's like a mental journal.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't have to write it down.
That's a good one. So yeah, in this case, I think what happens, people become very busy, whatever their walk of life is at the moment. Students, professionals, business people, and so on, right? So yeah, and then they want to multitask, but oftentimes it kind of like fails. It actually becomes deleterious. But yeah, if we speak about writing or talking to oneself, that seems to be the thing that can be kind of connected to other things. For example, what I started doing, that's how we can get back to this isolation survival topic. I was just walking in the street for about 15 minutes, up to 1 hour these days, right? This last week. And then I also was talking to myself, right? So then I was able to walk and talk, literally. And yeah, it was very helpful because, yeah, you can talk about the things which are on your mind and you kind of release them. And you just breathe in some fresh air at the same time. And one activity is not deleterious another.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think at the base level, even if you're not journaling, I think like what Travis did and what you did is reflection on a daily or weekly, whatever basis you have, as long as it's consistent. I think reflecting on your own experiences in your own thoughts is valuable in and of itself, because when you're experiencing something in the moment, your mind's overwhelmed with all this stimulus going on and you respond in certain ways. But maybe if you reflect on that experience afterwards, you can find and point out things that you didn't notice at the moment, or maybe how to act differently. I know every day I like to think at the end of the day before I go to sleep, I like to think about what happened throughout the day and think about what I could do differently to change certain circumstances within my control. So things about my own behavior, perhaps, I like to think about.
Okay, yep. Wow. Yeah, exactly. What do you think, Travis, is the best time to write the journal? When you used to do that, what was that?
Well, I used to start at the beginning of the day, and I would write down like everything I was planning on doing, and then I would go out and do that stuff, and then I'd go through the day, and then at nighttime when I get back, and right before I go to bed, I used to write down like what happened, how it went, everything I got done. Because I think at nighttime, that's when I do like the most thinking, existentially, because in the mornings I'm thinking about getting chores done and schoolwork, but at nighttime that's what I think about, like life and my path.
Exactly. Okay, well, yeah, if we are producing kind of an actionable plan about journal writing, I think it should be done in the evening, right? So when you acquire a whole host of the experiences for the day, and then what you can write about is, for example, things you're grateful for, right? So that's to emphasize something positive that has happened during the day. And also you can think in the more of the existential fashion and write down sort of the grand scheme of life, right? Or contribute to the grand scheme of life, because this grand scheme of life is something large and you cannot just conceivably write it out in one day on your journal page. Okay, that is great. So, and then basically we also need to, so one of the pillars of the book, Iron, was to get to the goals of your life, right, through journaling. What's the kind of like path here?
Sorry?
What's the path here? So if we want to get to the goals of our life.
Of our life?
Journaling. Yeah.
I think it's really more of a foundational thing. I think the path isn't really like, it's not a way to, it's not a clear defined channel to get to your goals and achievements, but I think
Okay.
it's a foundation for you to create that path on your own.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's a lot, the way I like to think of it is along the lines of like the basic human needs, for example, food, water, and shelter, right?
Okay.
As just an organism, and then you can tap into different areas of your mind and whatnot. But I think this is maybe you can view like journaling or reflection as a basic human need to satisfy your own mind and calm it down, and then be able to go at it with your own potential.
Okay.
You know, I just think it's important to calm down and think about certain things that you might not be think about on your own, in a guided fashion, with prompts to ask you, because you're never going to ask yourself hard questions all the time. But if someone else does, or a book does, then that might help you to feel more comfortable asking yourself hard questions and answering hard questions, deciding the type of person you want to be. For example, I just finished, I'm not that far in, but I just finished the first of 6 key areas called character. And it was kind of diving into who I am as a person. And it was just a few simple exercises, and it actually really helped me kind of understand who I want to be, what I want to achieve in terms of who I am to myself and others. And it's a good foundation for me to go about my daily life and remind myself of what I want to achieve.
Okay, well, yeah, that sounds good. So in that case, we basically can use writing as the additional tool for the self-reflection process, right? So because Travis, for example, you say that you can talk to yourself, right? So just have a self-talk. I think it's kind of like a legitimate technique, actually. So you can just use like a self-talk, and then nobody will deem you crazy or anything like that, right? So yeah, because that's kind of like a common perception. Oh yeah, you talk to yourself. It's kind of weird. What are you doing, right? So yeah, you can talk to yourself, and yeah, but I think one of the advantages of taking notes is that you can probably get back to them maybe sometime down the line and then see what happened. So then did you, Travis, get back to, for example, your notes and compare what happened kind of like in the past and then what's going on now?
Yeah, when you keep a journal, it's really fun to go back and look at like all the problems I was dealing with and just look back and say, oh, they're not problems anymore. I've taken care of them. And so that's always fun to look at and see that.
Okay, that is awesome. So yeah, in that case, yeah, what we can recommend is just to start journaling, right? And then many people will ask, how do I start it? Right? So, and then you can think about many intricate methods and tricks and approaches. But the best approach, I think, will be just to start it, right? So that's kind of not that tremendously difficult. So you just need to have a notebook, right? And start writing in there. And then, yeah, again, I would say maybe just carve out 5 minutes or so of the day and start writing. So that should be okay. And then, yes, what can you write about? 3 things you are grateful for. That's what I would like to reiterate once again. What else can anybody start writing easily about, do you think?
Sorry, Travis, go ahead.
I usually write about like obstacles that I'm facing or any
nice
short-term or long-term plans that I have.
I would say, I'm not sure how to articulate it, but behaviors and things within your own control that you can improvise and change in a positive way.
Okay, wow, that's great. So yeah, we have basically gratitude, problems, and solutions, right? That's what we have, and then that's basically what we encounter a lot in life. I heard somewhere that 70% of life is problems and some sort of like negative situations, and only 30% is the positive stuff. But yeah, so I would agree very much with kind of this problem writing part, because it is something that helps to kind of remove the burden from our mind in terms of the problems that it has to think about. Even if you write out the problem, so it's going to be something more clear, and you can kind of like get into that and then get to the solution part, just like Aidan you talk about. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's going to be very nice, and it's going to be useful for many facets of life. And then yeah, so if you want to get more into the details of how to achieve the goals in life, get some interesting tips and tricks, then you might as well read this book, right? So, and the authors are, once again,
Nicholas Slavchev and Kevin Connolly. We can put a link in the description.
Excellent.
That'd be easy.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I think reflection is really good for managing a lot of things, including stress, which kind of guides us on here. So I wanted to talk about cortisol as a neurotoxin today.
Yeah, exactly. So that's already some biochemistry going on right
your field.
here. Oh yeah, so to some extent.
Yeah.
So what's a cortisol actually? That's a hormone, right? As far as we know.
Yes.
So it's kind of like produced in your body. And then yes, I was reading some studies, right? So there were studies that were performed on monkeys, basically, and then those studies were linked to the humans, because monkeys are very similar to humans in terms of their, I think, composition, right? Except some distinctive elements. But in a sense, people are, or humans are very similar to monkeys. So yeah, I think that was a kind of a reliable study. And then, the bottom line was that there is a positive correlation between stress and cortisol, right? So the higher your stress, the more cortisol you have produced in your body, right? So, and basically, as I understand, so yeah, if you just kind of like leave, right, and you experience no stress, then there should be kind of not so much cortisol produced body, right? So cortisol is more like a result of some activity, of some stress, actually, pun intended, jokes, right? So, and what are the causes of stress, actually? If we speak about kind of like, for example, let's say student life, right? So if you learn something at the university, what can cause you stress generally?
Well, I know a thing or two about stress.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, pretty much anything can cause stress, schoolwork. I think the biggest cause of stress for me is when in school they're asking me to do something that I can't do, or at least I don't think I can do. So that can be pretty stressful and can lead to procrastination, everything, all these bad things. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think school can just be stressful in general. I think, especially if you're someone who puts a lot of pressure on yourself to do well, it's really hard to kind of relax that achievement bar. But I think I think stress is a pretty topical concept here in like our current world of in self isolation. Uh, I was reading an article about how fear of the coronavirus is actually deadlier than the virus itself. Uh,
Hmm.
so, like when you're in fear, your amygdala takes over and control of your actions in your brain. I think it's in your limbic system actually, and then you enter into a fight or flight response, and
Oh,
then
that's the reptilian brain, right? So
yeah,
that it gets
yeah,
activated in this case. Yeah.
and
Okay.
and that's what's causing all that stress. So like when people go to the store and they overstock on toilet paper and rice, and then they take too
Exactly.
much for everyone else, that's what they're doing, and they're in this reactive state to fight or flight. And so that's when your body starts producing the cortisol steroid to help you handle that
Hmm.
stress. But the problem there is that cortisol actually weakens your immune system, and then that makes you more susceptible to catching the virus and becoming a host for the
Okay.
virus. So it's this nasty circle of a natural fear response, but it's needs to be quelled so you don't overstress yourself out and weaken yourself.
Exactly. Okay. So yeah, looks like we have many factors that can generate stress in our lives, right? So that
Yep.
could be just the studies at the university, right? If you're a student or if you are a professional, going to the grocery store, right, as an adult. So then you can generate stress at, let's say, Stop and Shop, for example, right? So, and
I
then,
know, I
yeah,
know.
what I see, so I never thought about that until now, actually, until this very moment, that it's very easy to generate stress, apparently.
Yeah.
So it looks like it is just kind of like a very, what's it going to be called? A highly negative process in terms of the free energy, right? So,
Yep.
kind of like the processes in life tend to assume the lowest possible energy point, right? So that's when kind of the energy difference is negative. You go from something in high energy to the low energy, right? So, and you're saying, okay, well, like the free energy, kind of like in chemistry terms, it's going to be kind of the negative gives free energy, right? So it looks like, yeah, and then, yeah, that is one of those, what's it called? That's one of the properties of a spontaneous process. So it looks like the stress is pretty much spontaneous. So no matter what you do, it's going to be there, right? So it's kind of very easy to get the stress. And we are back. Yeah, sorry guys, we had some technical difficulty right here, but we have solved this problem just like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
All right. So, as I was saying earlier, if you look at a typical day, there are several small stress bearing events, right? And then when they are put together, they will produce a significant amount of cortisol, right? So the more stress basically there is, the more cortisol there is. And cortisol is dangerous because basically it can kill you. We can talk about this a little bit later. But yeah, let's think about what can we do about the stress, actually. Stress reduction, most importantly.
Well, I'm actually taking a class right now called Self Understanding, and in the class we talked about stress and its effects, and then coping mechanisms that people have to deal with the stress. So, I guess how you deal with stress is you have to identify first what is actually stressing you out. So there's a couple different kinds of stress. For example, there's acute stressors, which have short durations and no clear endpoint. Or no, they have a clear endpoint. So like something that's like short term that's stressing you out. There's also chronic stressors, which have long duration and they have no clear endpoint. So that can be like really long term stressors that are stressing you out. There's anticipatory stressors. So if you're stressing an event that's going to happen, there's also frustration, which is where the pursuit of a goal is thwarted. So you're trying to achieve something, but that's blocked for some reason. There's an obstacle in your way. That causes frustration. There's a whole bunch of types of frustration or stress causing. There's a bunch of causes of stress. And so basically, you just have to look at what is actually stressing you, identify what is stressing you so you know what the actual problem is. So you have to identify the problem, and then you can come up with a coping mechanism to deal with that. So if the problem is like emotion based, there's different methods for that. There's stress in the way you see things as well. So your appraisal of things is another category we have. And then there's an actual problem category. So there's appraisal focused coping, there's problem focused coping, and there's emotion focused coping. So for example, if your stress is caused by the way you see things, like negative self-talk can cause you stress. There's just the way you interpret things can cause you stress. So you just have to work on like getting rid of negative self-talk. You get rid of you have to find humor in the situation. You can positively reinterpret a negative situation, kind of find a silver lining in things. So that's one way you can cope with that. If you have like a physical problem or something, you can conquer that with like proper time management. You can reach out for social support and how to get across this obstacle. If it's an emotion-based stress, so like if your emotions are causing you stress, or if it's like something like maybe a lot of built-up tension or like anger or something, if that's causing you stress, then what you can do is you can, in a safe environment, release your pent-up emotions. Exercising and meditating will help with that. Like we talked about last week, exercising is pretty important. And then there's also like systematic relaxation procedures you can take, like meditation. Journaling will also probably help with emotion-based stress.
Awesome.
So all of these things are things you can do to cope with it. If you want to learn more about it, I suggest just doing a Google search on like coping mechanisms and causes of stress. There's a lot of information out there that'll help with helping your problems. And after taking this class, I've been applying some of these methods to my life, and it's really helpful. It helps you overcome stress and just relax more. It's really helpful. So I suggest trying that out.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, that is a very important set of information pieces because, so, and one of the keywords here would be kind of to identify the stress factors, right? So, because people can receive stress, right? So they are kind of susceptible to that very easily, but oftentimes we are kind of just like not aware what kind of type of stress that is, right? So, and then it makes things more difficult to deal with this stress. But I think that's one of the first steps, kind of to identify what causes the stress, what those processes are, right? And then what types of stress you experience. And then based on that, you'll be able to find the solutions. So, and then what about, so different types of stress, right? So do we have to apply different kind of like stress or anti-stress approaches to these?
Yeah, so I mean, it all depends on what's causing you the stress.
Okay.
And then there's different ways you can respond to that. There's also ambient stress, which is something I've been thinking about lately. It's just like chronic negative conditions embedded in the environment. So if like you're in a place that you have like bad history with, or that's caused you stress in the past, that can just cause like ambient stress. Like I'm sure everyone can think of places for this, but if you go to like a place and there's nothing stressing you out, but just being in that place is causing you stress, that's a problem as well.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, so in that case, you can just use some kind of stress-specific solutions to eliminate the stress, right? So you can try to get out of that place, for example, or so if you have some frustration, for example, frustration with studies. So how would you go about that? So, Aidan?
Frustration with studies in terms of
Yeah,
academics.
frustration with studies. Yeah.
I can get easily frustrated with anything. School is definitely one of those. I think something that Travis pointed out was useful. I think when school gets to be a certain point of stress, I think phoning a friend and tuning into your peers and hearing what they have to say is a valuable resource. I mean, I know that one thing that really stressed me out about school a lot was always I felt like it was like all these different moving parts going everywhere, and there was no structure to it in terms of things I had to do, which was stressing me out because I had an emphasis to accomplish something, and I didn't know where to start. But when you learn certain time management skills from friends, for example, it really helps, you know, work with all that, which everyone knows that. But the consult from your peers is really helpful to see where their experiences brought them and what you can take away from that. And it's nice to know that if you're stressed about something and you think it might be stupid, that other people also get stressed about the same things. So
yeah, like sometimes Aiden and I, if we're doing homework, we'll just go into like a phone call together and we'll just talk about like what we're thinking about, and that helps me reduce stress when I'm doing my homework, because sometimes just trying to get through it alone is like, it just, I don't know, it helps having someone to talk to while you're doing this stuff that you don't want to do,
because it sucks.
Yeah,
exactly. Okay, yeah, that's right. So yeah, basically reaching out for support, right? And then this support can be manifested via different resources. So that could be your peers, right? So you can also shoot an email to the professor, for example. At some universities, they have those so-called success coaches, right? So they're kind of like special people that help you deal with how to kind of like attack various academics, kind of like in general, right? So they will provide you with some kind of like success recipes, right? So yeah, there are many resources, and I believe that they are available at many schools and universities, right? So it's just all there, and sometimes what happens, people can just be prevented from this just because of them, right? So yeah, they could experience some sort of like fear of reaching out, right? So, but the good news here is that you just need to kind of start. You just need to do that. It's going to be a very small action, and then this will cause the entire avalanche of good events happening after that. So if you are in hesitation about reaching out to your peers or professors about the problems you are having in your studies, for example, right, that could cause you a frustration type of stress, then all you need to do is just to reach out, start and do that reaching out act, right? Maybe phone somebody or write up an email. So, and then this will cause the kind of like a chain reaction of good events happening. So, and then the problem is going to be solved that way. So the biggest thing is just kind of to start. But the good thing about this is that it's just a very short event. So it's very fast to start it. And then after that, everything will be much better. So do we have any kind of universal methods to deal with the stress?
Well, I think journaling helps a lot because, well, at least for me, when I journal, I write down all my problems. So that helps with the identifying the problem. And I guess when you're journaling, just think about what's stressing you. Think about possible causes of stress. You can kind of categorize them too, like ambient stress or like long-term stress, short-term stress. I think that really helps with identifying the problems, and that can help. Once you identify the problem, then it's like, okay, I have it here. It's on paper. It's not like some magical weight that's on your shoulder. It's like you've identified it. You put a name to the feelings that you're having, and I think that's a really important part of starting the coping mechanism stage.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, that's great. So yeah, basically we have another skill, which is going to be just writing out the problem, right? In addition to speaking to somebody about this problem. And also I would add probably meditation. So
yeah, for sure.
So meditation, which you can do. So what I would suggest is that you can do is like start with just 1 minute a day or maybe 5 minutes. And then gradually you can increase this time of meditation to probably 15 minutes or something like that. So I guess the more the better, but at the same time, you should not kind of like overshoot with that, because that might kind of interfere with some other processes of your busy days as well. So yeah, but seems like meditation helps to calm down the mind in general, right? And then this will be helpful to deal with various kinds of stress. So that might as well be one of those universal tools for combating the stress.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Sorry, were you gonna say something?
Yep, no, go ahead, Aidan.
I just think I just want to add that a couple things, but one, I think it's important to note that all the tools and strategies and processes for dealing with stress are awesome and great, but I think one of the real issues in our current society is that people can't get in touch with their own emotions to begin with. So it goes back to the identifying thing that Travis has mentioned a few times. It's if people have trouble thinking and analyzing their own feelings and emotions, they're never going to get anywhere. And I think that some of these tools, such as meditation and journaling, are great entryways to start introspectively thinking. So I think a lot of people can't do that, and there's some sort of barrier to understanding what you're feeling. And I think everyone over time builds up these different habits of dealing with that, which is really just a Band-Aid or mentally a Band-Aid or mentally running away from that stressor. But that's not how to deal with it. I think they need to be, I think the identification and self-understanding is a huge part of that. And I think just like a good first step is just simple meditation, reflection, and or journaling. One of those three, all those three is great. But I think those are great entry-level ways to start tackling all this kind of stuff. So I think that's what you guys have said has been great.
Yeah. So that should lay out, build up a good foundation for dealing with various forms of stress, right? And then also it will enable you to ask yourself those questions about yourself, right? So how do I feel at the moment, right? So, and then why do I feel that way? What can I do about this, right? What's positive, what's negative in my kind of like emotional profile? Because essentially various negative emotions can also kind of cause the stress in your life, right? So you approach something with negative emotions, and then it becomes a stressful situation. The cortisol levels go up. I think it's kind of the logical pathway right here. And then basically what I also hear from the sort of a chemistry and biology point of view, cortisol is also a neurotoxin, right? And then that's why it can kill you in the long run. So if there is like too much of that, then maybe kind of like you will not die right away, as they kind of showed it in various movies and stuff like that, right? After consuming a cyanide ampoule. So, but it might kind of like shorten the health span or lifespan even of an individual. So, and this is something that was kind of confirmed by the studies. So that's why we need to kind of take this thing seriously and apply all those methods. Not be afraid, right? So because if we kind of like postpone this self-reflection and if we continue burying the problems, then we'll just kind of like have more and more stress, right? So just because we were afraid to address the self-reflectionary problems. But if we address them, then we're already going to be on the way to solving those problems and reducing the stress. So you basically need to choose if you have either the fear of addressing the problems, right, that you have, or high cortisol levels. So, and everything will kind of be deleterious. So you need to deal with those problems.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So do not be afraid. And then that's why it's important to not be afraid to ask those hard questions.
Also, something I just thought of, I don't mean to keep this running, but I think what like point of view, like what if your friend is stressed out and you're not? Like what is your role in that scenario? And I think it's just important to be as empathetic as you possibly can, because I know when I get stressed and overreactive, my brain is not working in a logical manner at all. And Travis can attest to this, but it's really empathetic that if you're on the other side of that and you're with somebody who's getting stressed out, to understand that whatever their behaviors or things that they might be doing are not their preferred response and might not be the healthiest response. But what you can do is you can give that person an environment to be their best self and do all the tools that Oleg just mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So provide a helping hand, be open-minded, and at the end, this will make you feel better as well.
Yeah.
So because you're helping somebody, and then this person is getting help, so they will be feeling better kind of at the first place, and then so you'll also feel better, and then it's kind of like the positive circuit, I would say.
Absolutely.
So that's definitely something.
Positive circuit. Travis, do you have a comment?
Do I have a comment? Well, like
I'm
you
sure
said,
you have plenty.
About helping friends who are stressed. Whenever my good friend Aiden's stressed, I just pull out my psychology notes here and I go, it looks like you're having a frustration, which happens often. And so I just kind of like give him a little diagnosis on the scene.
Oh,
Kinda,
nice.
Yeah, it's kind of like I'm doing the journaling for him, sort of. Sometimes it's like, all right, here's your problem. Here's what you can do to cope with that, and there's your solution. So it helps
That's
to have
awesome.
an outside eye sometimes.
Yeah.
So here's another kind of confirmation that's important to take notes and then do the journaling. So that's a tool to start with, and eventually you'll start seeing the results. You'll have like very mighty tools to address those stress problems. Okay, that is amazing. So another thing, so what you can do, I think, is just to use cooking, actually, right? So to deal with the stress. We talk about those problems. And so you can cook lots of things, right? So, but sometimes if you are stressed about the leftovers in your fridge, you can use the skill of cooking the fried rice.
Fried rice.
Yeah, fried rice. So that's apparently a very versatile dish. So you just need rice, oil, right? So that's going to be kind of the foundation for various fried rice dishes. And from there, you can just like take off and make a myriad of fried rices. I should say. So yeah, apparently this originates from China, and then over the course of time, fried rice spread itself to Japan, Malaysia, Indonesia. So yeah, that's where kind of like other prominent kinds of fried rice are now present. So, and yeah, one of the keys basically, which I can share right now, that's what I didn't know up until recently, is that you need to use old rice. So you need to cook rice, right? For example, on like Friday, for example, right? And then the day you can make the fried rice will be Saturday. So it's going to be only kind of done the next day. Because when you just cook rice, it's kind of like very soft, right?
Yes.
So, but when you put it in the fridge, let it like sit there overnight or so, then it becomes much firmer. And then when you cook it to make the fried rice out of that, it's going to be not mushy as the end result.
Cool. That's a fun
So,
tip.
what are your fried rice experiences?
I this is super relevant for me. I love to cook to cool myself down, just to gather my thoughts. I think it's a great therapeutic technique for me. Usually when Travis brings out his little stress notes, it usually just makes me laugh, and that's what initiates my calm down procedure. So I'm not really listening to what he's saying, but it makes me laugh. But anyways, everything Oleg said about fried rice is great, but I think something that a lot of people could use in their kitchen in general, not just for fried rice, but in general, is a wok pan. WOK. I think it's
That's
a great
point.
It's a great cooking tool. It just, if you don't know what a wok is, it's just a saucepan essentially, but it's really large and concave. So like a big upside down dome, if you will. And it captures heat in a really central location at the bottom of that bowl. And you can the cooking process is really to mix the food around in there to transfer it from the colder parts, or not cold, it's still hot, but the warmer parts of the bowl to the hotter parts of the bowl. And it really helps this cooking and frying process. Frying is not sure if it's the correct term, but like the Maillard reaction and the caramelization. So yeah, that's my that's my tip.
Yeah, that is great. So
and use good oil. Use good oil. Don't use crappy oil.
Okay, yeah, I think so. One of the best oils is avocado oil, actually.
Yeah.
It has the highest smoke point, up to 500 degrees Fahrenheit. And yes, you can, for example, bake breads at high temperatures in the oven above like 400 degrees Fahrenheit using not coconut, but what's it called? Avocado oil, actually. And then in other cases, all other oils will start smoking at this temperature already. And then, so I just read some articles yesterday about woks versus pans, actually. Right. So, and then they say essentially there is a lot of heat that is applied to the wok.
Yep.
Right. So it's basically cooking at very high temperatures compared with just the frying pan. And from those high temperatures, you apparently can acquire some sort of smoky flavor to your food as opposed to the frying pan. So, yeah, you need to have a high quality oil, so that you can also use yesterday's rice, and you can use the wok, and then it will make your food kind of like more authentic. That's what I hear. Actually, this will become more kind of like Asiatic, I would say, more Chinese style, right? So if you use it with the wok, it's going to be more traditional in terms of the flavor profile. But yeah, it's going to be just kind of another investment into your kitchen tools arsenal, I would say. Absolutely. So what about the fillings? So Travis, do you have any kind of like recommendations for the fillings into the fried rice?
Stuff you put in it?
Yeah.
Well, the way I make my fried rice is I just get my rice, I get some eggs, And then I put the rice in first, get it nice and warm, then put the eggs over, crack the eggs on top, just in a
Okay.
regular frying pan.
Yeah.
And then for fillings or toppings, I put hot sauce, Frank's Red Hot Sauce,
Oh, nice.
with some
Okay.
pepper. Sometimes I put maybe meat if I have any meat. But yeah, I do pretty much simple. Usually I forget to clean out the fridge and just make fried rice. But cleaning out the fridge is a good idea, put anything you don't want to eat.
Yeah.
We got a lot of that.
Hmm.
Pretty much many things go well with rice, and then you just need to have some basic ingredients, right, such as the oil, rice, and eggs in this case as well. Then you can also use some soy sauce. You can use some hot sauce. That's going to be definitely a nice kick. And then soy sauce will provide kind of distinct flavor and some saltiness, right? So those two items into your fried rice. Then you can use almost any vegetable, right, that you find, maybe some napa cabbage or celery, carrots, maybe even tomatoes. Tomatoes should work, right? You can dice up some tomatoes.
Yeah.
I believe so. And at high enough temperatures that it will kind of like desiccate them a little bit. So yeah, that should work. And then you can use like chicken or beef or pork and so on in any form that you can find essentially. So, and then another thing, which we can think about is there exists this pepper paste from Korea, right? It's called gochujang. Gochujang, just GOCHUJANG. So if you start typing that in the Google, so you'll find it. So it's a very versatile tool, and then that's what will make your fried rice red if you want to kind of like change the colors.
Oh, cool. That's cool.
And kind of like diversify your fried rice game a little bit. And another thing, so if you kind of like want to also make your fried rice a little bit different, right, from what you have cooked before, maybe with some kind of hot sauces and soy sauce, you can apparently take some soy sauce, and mix it up with a little bit of brown sugar and a little bit of vinegar.
Yeah.
Kind of like mix it up, and then this will make the sweet soy sauce, which you can also use in the fried rice, and you will make it sort of, I think it's going to be either Malaysian or Indonesian style fried rice with sweet soy sauce. So that's okay. Frank's right here. So Travis, can you make a sound so that we can see the sauce?
Frank's Red Hot Sauce.
Oh yeah.
Or
so
half
one
the
of those
bottle.
staples.
Half of a bottle of Frank's Red Hot Sauce.
Yeah, that's great. So, and then again, those ingredients are pretty cheap, right? So they're affordable, and we can definitely use them in our kitchen. We can also make diverse fried rices, and then this is a very practical tool to clean up the fridges, as we see.
Awesome.
Excellent. All right. So I think we're going to wrap it up right now.
Excellent. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Great. Yeah.
Today we talked about path.
reflection,
journaling, the path, the
cortisol.
novel. Check out The Path on Amazon, is it?
Amazon, yeah. We can slap a link in the description.
We'll slap
we
a
can
link
throw
in the
it in.
description. We talked about cortisol as a neurotoxin, stress, and how to manage it. And then we also talked about fried rice. So,
you have lots of pieces of information.
Yeah, tune in next time. And also subscribe to the Flake YouTube channel for more.
Smash the subscribe button.
Smash that button.
Smash that like button.
That's going to be very beneficial for all the parties. We are promising you. And then before the next episode, please take notes about this one. It was a very hefty, very information-filled episode. and try to apply them in your life during this week up until next Sunday. And then if you want, you can share your results with the audience. So that would be very nice to hear any feedback that can be kind of publicly posted so that other people of our community could also get some help, some practical examples of what people have achieved. So you will help somebody, so they will feel better, and you will feel better as well. So speaking of practical outcomes of that, so that's an overall very, very useful process. And again, this episode was sort of sponsored by the University of Rhode Island, that has been producing great minds and big thinkers since the 19th century. Roddy, 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 Rams, Rams, Rams.
Yep.
Boom, boom, boom. We are done.